Okay, so this is Miss Weeks, and I am going to go over. Hopefully, this works. This is my third time doing this. So I'm going to go over some irony notes. Verbal irony is the use of words to mean something different than what they appear. Sarcasm. Situational irony, if you see the word situation in it, it's the difference between what you expect to happen and then what actually happens. And then we have dramatic irony when the audience knows that something is going to happen or they are aware of something, but the character does not know. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a slideshow, and you guys are going to watch this slideshow. Okay, so this is types of irony with examples, and then we're going to watch a video, and you're going to decide what kind of irony is being used. So the first kind of I just talked about is dramatic irony. So if you've ever seen a horror movie that has a killer on the loose, you and the rest of the audience know that the teenagers shouldn't go walking in the woods late at night, but they think the midnight stroll would be romantic. Needless to say, they become the next victims. Another example of dramatic irony is when you're watching a talk show. The audience knows why a person's been brought on the show. However, the person sitting in the chair does not know that he is going to be reunited with a former lover. This adds to the suspense and to the humor of the show. Then you have situational irony. That's based on situation. So you might break a date with your girlfriend so you can go to a ball game with the guys. But then when you get to the concession stand, you run into your date who is with another guy. That's the opposite of what you expected to happen. Another example of situational irony is you stay up all night studying for a test. When you go to class, you discover the test is not until the next day. That would be a bad situation. Then verbal irony. Verbal irony, sarcasm is another word for verbal irony. You're arguing with your mother who reprimands you for being smart. Your reply is a sarcastic, if you think I'm smart, then why won't you let me make some smart decisions? Might get you smacked. Another example of verbal irony, your boyfriend shows up in ripped up jeans and a stained t-shirt. With a smirk, you say, "Oh, I see you dressed up for our date. We must be going to a posh restaurant." Posh means like fancy. So it's the opposite of what she really means. She's being sarcastic there. Okay. So now that we've gone over the PowerPoint, I went over the notes. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to show you a video. Okay. And so let me get to this. And you're going to be deciding what kind of irony each one of these is. So okay, before I do this, let me really quickly mute my mic so you.
You remember the other day you were asking me what the definition of irony was, and I said,
Oh, in class, whoever parked in my space, thank you. I enjoyed the walk.
You're welcome.
Yeah, there's nothing like an hour in the rain. Okay, last week's assignment was how you describe the food in England. Jane.
The food is so good there.
Excellent.
Boiling everything is a really super smart way to cook things.
Well done. Kevin.
When my dad eats, he sounds like a pig.
No, that could not be more wrong.
Come on, I promise I'll catch you. I'm here for you. Come on. You can do it. Jump.
is considered a medical miracle. Laura Esterman was struck by lightning nearly a month ago, and she was considered officially dead. Thankfully, CPR from her mom revived her heart, but she laid in a coma for 2 weeks, and then she defied all odds and woke up. Well, obviously, there was a problem with that tape. She doesn't really sound like that. She doesn't remember the accident, but the evidence is clear. I am so sorry.
I'm a college man. I won't need my high school diploma anymore. I am too smart. I am too smart. I am too smart. I am too smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-R-T.
Evan?
Nice day we're having.
Oh, yes!
What?
He said nice day, but he covered with rain.
So?
So he said it's when your brain know it's not really nice day.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes, he said the opposite. It's funny.
Yeah, I get it. Nice day.
Oh, now you funny too. Oh.
Edgar Allan Poe was a master of the macabre. He wrote horror, he wrote poetry, criticism, fiction, mystery. He was a master of suspense.
Edgar Allan Poe, called by many the father of the detective story, was born on January 19, 1809, in Boston, Massachusetts.
When Poe was 2 years old, his mother passed away, and his father had already abandoned the family. He was taken in as a foster child by the Allan family.
He was writing poetry from about the time that he was 13. He kept writing all the time. He worked very, very hard at his writing and wrote constantly.
In 1826, Poe enrolled at the University of Virginia. He went into debt, he gambled to try to pay off those debts and found himself in even greater debt and ultimately had to withdraw from the university. In 1830, Poe enrolled at West Point.
After West Point, Poe turned to writing full-time and lived in a number of East Coast cities before settling down in Richmond, Virginia.
Edgar Allan Poe secretly married his 13-year-old cousin, and then in 1836 publicly married her in a more open ceremony.
He loved her very, very much. They lived together always until, alas, she died of tuberculosis when she was, I guess, around 20.
Poe's primary occupation as a writer was as a literary critic. He worked at several newspapers and literary magazines, and he had quite a reputation for being a harsh critic. One of his editors called him the Tomahawk Man.
During his lifetime, he barely made a living from his writing.
Poe published some of his most famous short stories in his 1840 collection, Tales of the Grotesque and Arabesque.
He wrote some of his stories using the first person and talking about the use of opium, so people assumed that he dabbled in drugs. The stories were so creepy. They were ghost stories taken to such a brilliant extreme that people thought he had to be a little strange himself.
Poe invented detective fiction when he wrote The Murders in the Rue Morgue in 1841.
Murders in the Rue Morgue really deserves to be called the first detective story. It started the whole tradition of detective fiction.
The Raven, which was published in 1845, was his huge breakthrough. It became a big bestseller.
Poe's career very much went up and down until he really hit The Raven, and that poem was known by, it seems everyone in the world. It had an enormous press.
On October 7, 1849, Edgar Allan Poe died at the age of 40 under mysterious circumstances.
Poe's death may be one of the most bizarre things about his life. He left Virginia on his way to New York, disappeared. A week later, he was found on the streets of Baltimore.
We don't have a single piece of information about what he was doing. At the end of that week, he was found in a tavern, ill, drunk, and was taken to a hospital.
It turned out he was wearing clothes that didn't belong to him, and a couple of days later he died in a delirium. Nobody knows exactly what killed him.
Edgar Allan Poe's legacy in American literature is very detectable in all of the mystery dramas and stories we have, and all the kind of horror and vampire work that we see, that there is that trace of the sort of horror and mystery that Poe really was able to harness in his writing.
Poe is an American icon. I think he's more than a writer.
Even today, more than 150 years after he died, everybody loves Edgar Allan Poe.
Okay, guys, so sorry about that. I know that there's a lag, or there's a part of that where I was actually talking and you didn't hear me. So I'm just going to have to explain that in the message that I give you. But yeah, so that is Edgar Allan Poe. Very, very dark, very depressing, mysterious horror. That's what he's known for. Okay. So that is going to be kind of the setting of the story that we're going to be reading, which is The Cask of Amontillado. And I want you guys to realize that that Edgar Allan Poe uses all three types of irony in his story. Okay. So that is what we're going to be doing on Monday.